introduce themselves, I think I will incorporate the first question on our moderator question, which is, have you done it? So I'll start. Yes. I have done it twice. Would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, I'm also a writer, and there's one of my books.
I'm Bennett. I write under JL Bennett for horror. Secret, which kind of just came out a few months ago. I also write paranormal romance under Aaron Marcotte. There are a few listeners. I also teach writing at Metro State here, and I have done NaNoWriMo. We're actually doing something. We're in Denver. We're doing some events on campus. You sit around while you're writing. Or you
and have you done it?
Yes, I've tried to do it as a teacher. November is a little tough. I'm going to do it this year. But I've tried to do it. Learn from my mistakes. Up to there, about why I failed.
My name is Lowell. I write science fiction and fantasy. The two fantasy books that I have out at the moment, in fact, are NaNoWriMo books. I've written 3 NaNoWriMo books that are available. 2 of them are in audio, 2 of them are in print. The third book, the one book that's not in print, will be in print next month. So I'll be publishing a NaNoWriMo book in NaNoWriMo. Unfortunately, I will not participate in probably not.
But you have done it.
Oh, I have done it several times, yeah.
Have you lost count?
I don't know. I've done a lot. I've won. Well, at least 3 times.
Alright, so my name is Rachel Acks. I primarily write science fiction and fantasy. I have won NaNoWriMo every year that I've done it, which I've done it now 5 times. Out of those 5 times, I got 2 actual complete novels, one of which I deemed good enough that I'm actually shopping it out. I'm currently working with Acks on it. I do the Clarion Write-a-thon every year, and I did a 120,000 word novel over the course of the Clarion Write-a-thon 2 years ago. So I got that experience as well. I will not be doing NaNoWriMo this year. I actually have not done it for the last 5 years because I went back to school, and it was a little too rough to try to do full-time school, part-time work, and do nano. And this year I'm definitely not doing it because I'm writing a thesis.
Well, you can do that.
Yeah, I think there is something National Write My Goddamn Thesis Month.
Well, and this is the sad thing about this thesis. Like, nano is all word count, word count, word count. I'm like, I spent an hour and a half writing a 150 word paragraph with 5 references in it and 17 pictures. So yeah, I'm a grad student.
Hi, my name is Kim. I'm going to make it. My name is Amanda. I guess I'm the amateur of the panel. I've done Nano the last 2 years. Have not won, but I got that nice little participant badge. Definitely going to be doing it this year if things prevail. As they should. Primarily, my genres are SF and fantasy, something on the spectrum of fiction with a little touch of dystopia. And well, I think that's about it.
Okay, well, you guys have already jumped to the next question, which was, are you planning to do it this year? And 3 of you are not, and you are, right? And I'm going to be doing it too. The first year that I did it, I won. That just means you would get to your word count by the end of November. And the second year, last year, I did not because I was sick. That's another story. And have you have participated before, right? And have you won before? Or?
I have not won before.
So this is the year. Okay, all right. Well, let's talk about what it's like doing this NaNoWriMo. to jump into that one?
Sure, I'll jump in. I've done it often enough. I mean, the big thing about NaNoWriMo, which is why I believe that it is a very valuable tool for teaching you to write, is because you just kind of have to throw yourself down the hill and keep going and never look back. And I had tried to write novels before I actually ever did Nano, and I did the thing where you write a chapter and then you just spend the rest of your life editing your chapter until it's the most perfect first chapter that has ever existed in the history of mankind, and then you never write the second chapter. And so it really is just this effort of making yourself write every day. It doesn't matter if you don't feel like writing, you have to do it. It doesn't matter if, you're like, oh, I have all this work. Well, you still have to do your write count or your word count for the day, or it's going to suck even worse for you later on in the week. So it's all very much about setting goals for yourself and hitting those goals and then overshooting those goals if you possibly can, because then you're like, oh, the end of my month just got here. Woo! So that's kind of, it's really the learning to turn off your inner editor is the first step to actually managing that kind of work.
Well, I'm going to jump in here because I just realized that I didn't explain what NaNoWriMo is, but I am assuming that everybody knows what it is. Does anyone not do? Yeah, is there anyone who needs that explanation of what it is? Okay, good. Sorry about that. Okay, does anybody else have anything to add to what Rachel is explaining about what it is?
I think part of the beauty of it is that it's very social effort, where most writing is done in a room by yourself. And in NaNoWriMo, it's sort of like going on a diet. If you don't tell anybody you're on a diet, you don't go on a diet. But with NaNoWriMo, you sign up. Your name is up there, and quite frequently, I highly recommend it. Join your local regional group, so everybody sees what your word count is. And your group is like Microsoft. Really, we have word boards, so that we're fighting against Lowell and we're fighting against Lowell.
Boulder Rock.
So we've got these things going on, and your word count is up there for everybody to see just how badly you suck. And so that's a real strong sort of spur to get you to find time to write 1,667 words a day.
I think we're having discussions in the bar as we do. Honestly,
that is the rock and roll lifestyle.
I think we learn most from just sitting around chatting with other writers and writers that want to come into the game with a new writing a couple short stories that what does it mean to be a novelist? What does it mean to be a writer? Like, well, you write. I mean, that's well, when can you call yourself a writer? When can you write? What makes the difference between someone who wants to be a writer and someone who's a writer? The ass in the chair. And that's what NaNoWriMo does. It puts the ass in the chair. You can't promote, you can't get published, you can't, all that stuff you can't do if you don't have the book. And that's the ass in the chair, the words on the page, and that's anyone's done. The social aspect does help. You're not somewhere where you can't physically be with someone. Online, Facebook, in November is going to be full of people posting their word counts every single day. And yeah, what's your word count up to? I know people have word board, and that helps prod you on. You don't want to fall behind. You want to hold it back.
Well, and even worse than the word count every day is that chart.
Oh, the graph.
You watch your line go, stay with the curve, and then if, like, for me, it goes down, and like, oh God, no. And then it really inspired me to get in the chair and get that line back up.
Okay, so there was a panel at WorldCon that I attended where people were talking about how to not get published, kind of as a joking thing, and I've got the notes on my blog if anyone really wants to. It's hilarious. But one of the things that struck me the most, there were two things. It was stop calling yourself a wannabe writer, because if you write, you are a writer. But the other thing that one of the agents said that really struck me was that everyone wants to have written a novel. Very few people actually want to write a novel. And everyone wants to come up to you and tell you, like, I have this great idea for a novel and this thing and this plot, and you're like, well, write it. And that is what Nano is for. It is so that you will have actually written a novel. And frankly, from what the agents and publishers at that panel were saying, and some of the other panels I went to were saying, if you can manage to actually sit down and write, 80,000 coherent words, and then put your pants on the right way so that you can go to the post office and mail them to someone, you are, like, way ahead of everyone else. So that's a thing to consider.
How about you, Amanda? What was it like for you?
It was pretty intensive, and as you said, Nathan, right? Okay, go ahead. Okay. If you do it on your own, it's going to be a lot more difficult if you don't have at least one person occasionally tapping you on the shoulder going, hey, how's the word count? So I can't stress that enough, that at least some sort of baseline participation. Doesn't have to be face-to-face. But it's the sitting down and just going at it part that can definitely be invasive if you're still breaking yourself in and kicking aside imposter syndrome and saying, okay, that's it. If you have to get stuck on a word, I think I ended up actually needing my count one day. At least half a paragraph just was the same word over and over until I could get myself unstuck. So it might have been more like 1,600 for some of them. But yeah, some of it just came down to utilizing tricks of, if you can't think of what to do next to your story, just look at the linoleum, describe the linoleum in this scene if you can't. Pull an RL for so mine was an experience in padding.
Yeah.
As a creative writing teacher, based on regular classes where I don't know what to write, don't know how to get started. There are a lot of tricks that you use. One of them I use, music, for filling wind, getting something that has, it's not too fast, it's fast enough, and literally just start typing what you're singing. And at a certain point, you stop typing what you're singing and your mind just goes off. You start typing something, begin it, even, and then go back to typewriter, personally I like, and actually write. You think writing by hand is slower, but something in it, for me personally, and it depends what you're doing.
Good thing you have to catch your words yourself.
Yes, well, I retype them, but handwriting, but for me, I write on the light rail, so I write on the light rail, go to my office hours, go to what I wrote on the light rail. But typewriting, I like the typewriter, something about the black of the keys and the manual nature of it, and then I can just scan it, OCR, or something, but I don't really want to type the whole thing. A lot of NaNoWriMo, but the little tricks, production of whether wearing a special, when you put the special writing hat on, you're in the writing mode, and you've got a little coding that you touch before you go to write something.
What you said about the typewriter brings to mind, I use the typewriter too sometimes when I am having trouble going forward. Because the typewriter does help me go forward because it's really hard to go backwards. You have to retype things. So I think that, especially in a case like NaNoWriMo, where your goal is to get 50,000 words, they don't have to be good words. They just have to be 50,000 words. They won't be good words. Yeah, they won't be. Going forward is really, really important. And so if you have that tendency like I have on the computer, because it's so easy to rewrite as you go and fix things, rewriting backwards, sometimes I think the typewriter would be a really good thing. Does anybody have any other tips that they have?
In a similar vein, something that I've seen coming up in some of the discussions I've read, is some of those really small, like, little keyboard word processors. You know, it's like, what am I doing here with a laptop and a distraction machine, as opposed to having something where you only read the last 6 lines you've written.
The Alpha Smart.
Alpha Smart, yes. Those apparently can be a really good way to avoid distraction, and as well as have fairly handy USB function where you can upload your work into a word processor and just have done with it by the end of the project.
That's a good point. I know I was also typing while not looking at the monitor.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's another way to do that, and I find that it's just kind of stream of consciousness. But at least you get a draft.
I would say, for God's sake, turn off your Wi-Fi. Because the internet is there to keep you from writing. I've never really had the problem with once I get going back. One thing I would actually really recommend is if you're like writing along and then you realize that you just did a thing that requires that you need to edit something earlier, don't go back and edit it. Write a giant note and just in the middle of your page and highlight it in yellow.
More words.
Yeah, and then you come forward to be like, I need to go back and fix X thing in chapter 2. So I would really, you know, even if you change something that means you have to go fix your continuity earlier in the novel, don't do it. Just write yourself a note and keep going.
I use XXX, like, I forgot this person's name, I forgot their eye color, whatever it is, so I don't go back and find it. I put XXX, move it on, and then I can search for that later in December, fix all that kind of stuff. Maybe if I'm stuck in one day, go back and fix that stuff. So anything like that all production. Or the comment feature in Microsoft Word I find very useful.
Well, I'm not sure if anyone has heard of Scrivener or tried it. I know you can try it for free for NaNoWriMo. I really like it. There's a typewriter mode for it where it goes into full screen and all it does is look like a typewriter. So you can't see your internet flashing on the bottom or anything. And then another tip that I've also heard that I really liked for the end of the day, leave off in the middle of a sentence or leave off in the middle of a paragraph. So tomorrow when you come back to it, you know right where to pick off.
Oh my God, I mean, one thing I would actually, and this kind of goes back into the age-old discussion of to outline or not to outline, because every writer does it differently. I outline, and I don't do like the Kevin J. Anderson 20-page, 6,000 word outline, but I try to hit like all the high points, and I found that that's actually a really good way to keep yourself on track and be like, okay, so today I'm going to write from this point to this point, and then I can call it good. And you're not necessarily going to know how many words it's going to take to get you from point A to point B, especially if you're just doing kind of like major plot points, but that is one thing that can help, and you are allowed to outline it all out before you start.
And do you?
Oh, yeah. The 1 year I did not outline was the first year I did Nano, and part of the problem was the story I came up with was not big enough for a novel, so I started panicking early on, and I was like, I know how I'll get my word count. I'm going to describe every leaf of every tree, and the cracks in the paint, and yeah, so that did not work out well. And then ever since then, I outlined, and then actually the novel I wrote during the Clarion Write-a-thon, I had to redraft my outline 4 times because during the course of plotting, it changed enough that I had to re-outline the end of it.
That's the number one reason why I failed. I was a pantser all my life. We just, I'd see your pants, write what comes to you, and that's why now I've come to learn in my writing that I really like it more when I outline. So, a couple books that I would suggest that I found helpful. The Marshall Plan for novel writing, pretty good one that sets it up. A lot of the screenwriting ones are actually work very well for novels as well. They're very plot. Yeah. The Weekend Novelist also covers characterization. Screenwriting tips are often save the receiving in NaNoWriMo, it's half as much what they do in October and what they do in November. Yeah, you can, I would suggest, if you've got time right now where it is, come up with your outline and know your characters. Knowing your characters is just as important because you need to know, even though you've got the bare bones outline, you know what to see, how is that character going to react? If you know that already, it's like you're in the scene and you just write it. You know who that character is, you know how they're going to react to a certain scene. So do pre-writing for the character as well as the plot, and find yourself as stuck in November.
Robin, you had a question?
Oh, I wanted to comment. Scrivener is for primarily for Mac, but also for, they've done a PC version, but there is a free version that's particularly for PC that is YWriter by Space Jock Software. And it's pretty much the same as Scrivener, but it is free. So I know Scrivener does support NaNoWriMo and usually gives you
If you win Nano, you get like 50% off.
yeah.
If you have an iPod or an iPad, there's an app called A Novel Idea, which is pretty good. It's kind of like.
Well, and as far as planning and working ahead in October, one thing that my friends and I do is what we call Crunchtober. And we do writing prompt every day in October just to kind of get used to writing every day. And we write about our characters. So that helps us get to know our characters. It helps us get used to writing every day. And it's only 500 words, so it's not that bad.
That's a great idea.
And we do it on Twitter with the hashtag Crunchtober if you want to join us.
And one thing I would suggest, honestly, is if you do Nano and you get into the groove and you're like, well, man, I can be done writing every day. It doesn't have to be 1,600 words a day. Just do 50 words, 100 words. But it's one of those things where just keep your momentum going.
Built the habit.
Yeah, because it needs to be a habit. You need to start getting to the point where you're like, oh my god, I haven't written anything today. I feel really weird. And it's frustrating. That's where you want to be.
There needs to be some topic specific that if you're a fiction writer, fiction, or if you're non-fiction, or going to be writing anything.
Or would you say like Nano?
You said you have to be like 500 to 1,600 words a day.
Oh, so for Nano.
Does your writing have to be topic specific?
Well,
Does it have to be specific to a certain topic?
well, you're
supposed to come up with a title at the beginning, although not everybody does, and you write and record your word count each day. So
you're writing a novel.
Yeah. NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month. However, it can be any kind of novel you want, and I'm sure if you wanted to write like a nonfiction book in a month, more power to you.
yeah, it's all of it.
Yeah.
There's creative nonfiction.
I mean, I think it's more, the entire point of it is, hey, if 1 month you can produce 50,000 words, which, to be honest, 50,000 words is really not quite a novel, but it's getting you there.
It's a nice round number.
It's a good, well, it's a reasonable amount to do in a month.
And it can be a novel, too. Some of the older fiction, actually.
More, nowadays, they're going more longer, but I think it's kind of like, with e-readers, it's getting all weird.
But that's actually a good segue into one of our questions, which is, what do you do when you get to 30,000 words and you like, well, that's all I had to say about this. Then what? Has that ever happened to you?
Well, it happened to me my first time when I had the spot idea that was too short, and then I just added the crap out of it. But I have actually, the problem that I've normally had in Nano is my plot is actually almost too big. There has been one occasion where I actually hit 60,000 in the month of November, and then it was a month. And that was my entire novel. And then every other time, I just kept going. The one that I'm working on with the agent, I got 65,000 of it done in November, and then I continued on over the next 2 months and wrote an additional 30,000. So I've actually never had that problem.
Anybody else?
Well, I'm the same way. I don't have the problem of running out. To me, a novel is 50,000 words in a novel.
Yeah.
It's got to be 100,000 words. Or the story has to be complete. So when I sit down to play NaNoWriMo, my goal isn't 50,000 words. My goal is a complete story. And since for me a complete story is between 80 and 100,000 words, I'm not looking at 1,600 words a day. I'm looking at 5,000, 10,000 words a day. And so for me the challenge isn't really what do I do at 30,000 words, because that's like the second week, Monday. And so it's like the middle is always the hardest. You set the stage, you've got your excitement, you've introduced your characters, you've set up the plot, and they fail the first time, and now what do we do? You know, and you have some idea, and I'm an illiterate pantser. I cannot write to an outline. Once I know how the story is going to go, I'm not interested in writing anymore. So I can't outline it or expose it. But you get to the middle, this middle part is really, that's really the hell part. Where do you go from here? And the answer is, for me, it's always, when I get there, it's because I'm trying to write what's happening now. What I need to do is write what happens next. So like, don't try to tell me that. Don't tell me what's going on now. What happens next? Well, they have to do that. Okay, yeah, off you go. As long as you can, it's sort of like walking. You know, taking that first step is a bit of a challenge, but once you get the momentum going, for me, what I advise people is write what happens next. Don't waste time telling people what's going on now, because they already have that in their mind. Write what happens next, so that you can drag them along with you in the story.
So it reminds me, kind of like everyone knows how movies made. They don't just put a camera on and let it like Alfred Hitchcock's rope and just follow the action. They do scene 2 and scene 36, and you don't have to write your novel sequentially. There's no rule that says that. If you want to write it out of sequence, that's how you write. How I wrote my novel coming out next month. You will probably have more revisions that have to be done. But yeah, there's no rule that says you have to, like you're on chapter 2 and tomorrow you have to write chapter 3. You can skip around if you know where you're going. I often like to write my last chapter first, so I know where my story's headed, especially when I was pantsing. When I was pantsing, I wanted to know where am I going to end up. I wrote the first and last chapter, and then I know where I'm starting, where I'm going, and then I wrote how I got. But yeah, there's no rule that you have to write sequentially.
And you made a really good point, is that the revision is going to come after.
Yeah.
And there's a rule in writing. You can't edit one page.
Hemingway says, write drunk, edit sober, and
Well, like Nathan, I'm also a pantser, but I really envy Rachel. God, I wish I could write an outline. I look for an outline, but every time I try an outline, it's just boring. I lose interest in it. But the way I work is I know how it begins, I know who my characters are, and I know how it ends. And one time when I was writing a novel, and this was not for NaNoWriMo, but I got to that kind of 30,000 or that more than halfway point, and I got stuck. And I just did not know what was going to happen next. I wish I would have given anything for some insight into next. But I knew my ending. I knew how it had to end, and I knew what had gone on before that. So I stopped and I just, okay, what has to happen to get from this point to that point? And so I started jotting down plot points that needed to happen. And then I said, well, I'm bored with this. So then I started jumping into those scenes. Well, let me just write those scenes. And then pretty soon I had finished the novel. So that might be something that you could use in NaNoWriMo if you can get stuck.
Kind of wrote a little mini outline there.
Yeah, exactly. And I was, yeah.
One of the quick tricks to getting through the stuck point is kill someone, blow something up, or stuff like that. Kill someone, blow something up.
I mean, the classic is have a man come into the room really good. Yeah, because then you have to explain, well, why is he here? Who is he? And why does he have that gun?
You know, I had a Ford Scott card as one of my professors said, enlightening experience, that his idea, like, when you were stuck, what would be the worst possible thing to happen with those characters? Throw a monkey wrench in the world. That's what always is. You're stuck on something, you throw something, throw a monkey wrench in the world. So they're going along, well, deal with this then. What makes it interesting? Well, deal with it.
Oh, I've heard that if you get stuck in the middle, your villain's not doing enough.
And there was a classic, was it Alfred Hitchcock? I don't remember, who said, we'll drop it aside here. Yeah, we'll drop it aside.
As far as the outline thing goes, one thing that I've played around with, and it might work better for, you know, going at the things that scatter shots, since I can't exactly go linear. I branch off of things. I know there used to be, you know, that bubble method that they teach you in grade school. There's a program called FreeMind that you can use to basically catalog your thoughts and where they branch off into. I'm still getting the hang of the labeling, but you can basically create a map of your concept, your characters, notes, events that you want, or even world building in a completely limitless page. Like, you know, you just have to scroll around it like it's, you know, a NASA map or something. So that's one way to do it. FreeMind. FreeMind. It's as far as I know, it's still free software.
I did very similar things, but the old-fashioned way with the note card, highlighters, so like new highlighter with this character, and I literally put it up on the wall, everything that I write, so I can see. You could see, like, one section was the plot, then I could see, yeah, like, the villain isn't in this enough, and that often is, or whatever character, like, I've left the villain for 5 chapters, you don't know what to do. You can see, I'm a little old-fashioned, I'd like, actually physically, you know, move around the cards, and then I can take them and put on the train, and with them as well, thinking to plot. But yeah, you don't have to have you don't have to have any big technological things. That's another thing NaNoWriMo is. Right. However, whether it's pencil or pen or computer or iPad or whatever the hell you need to write words on the page, that there's lots of tricks and cool things. So you don't need to be tied to whatever works for you.
Yeah, and if one thing doesn't work, try something else. So I have a question for all of you guys. Are you all planning to do NaNoWriMo, or are you just thinking about it? Or so everybody's planning to do it. I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Is it on a certain month of the year?
November.
It starts in November.
Well, and they do have the camp NaNoWriMo now during the summer.
Yeah.
July and August.
June and August.
Well, last year it was July and August, and this year it was June and August, yeah.
And they
Camp,
if you
NaNoWriMo.
If you go to the website, which is what NaNoWriMo.org, they have a lot of information, and I think there's actually events every month of the year that you can participate in. There's different setups, but yeah, right. Okay, so since we were talking about software and stuff like that, I was wondering about how you work. Do you use these elaborate spreadsheets and to help you do your word count every day, or how do you track this?
I'm a science major. I love Excel. That's how I track it. Graphs, pie charts.
What do you put in these charts?
Oh, I normally do like, my word count, and then I'll do like my deviation from my goal line, and then, my average word count over time, things like that.
Well, you can find those graphs pre-made on the internet. Like, people have already made them, and you just download the spreadsheet and plug in your own stuff.
But see, this is the thing. If you download the spreadsheet and plug in the stuff, then it is no longer an effective form of cat waxing. And you're really just doing it because you're trying to avoid doing work. It's kind of like the same thing as, sitting around in the chair and sort of enjoying the cat, That's what that's good for. Otherwise, you're just like, hey, what's my word count at? 45,000, yeah!
Yeah, I track daily words, I track by chapter, because for me, I'm writing a podcast, so I need to know how many words are going to go together at the beginning of the podcast. So I track words by day, I track words by chapter, and I track a run of the day. I know for the last week how many words.
There's a program that a lot of my friends find very helpful, especially for NaNoWriMo, called Write or Die.
Yeah.
Right? Or there are a lot of different ways you can set it at the suicide level. If you stop typing, words start erasing.
Oh.
You literally cannot stop typing, or what you've already written goes away. At the less suicidal level, it starts going pink, and then red, and then dark red, and then it starts beeping at you.
It's got a list, actually, of the most annoying sounds you can possibly pick.
And you can try it out on the website. There's a web version for free. There's also a paid version that one downloaded to your computer or to your iPhone or iPad. A lot of my friends find that incredibly useful.
There's a less masochistic version of that too, that's just this adorable little website called Written Kitten, where you set it so that every time you hit a certain number of words, it gives you a new adorable picture of a kitten.
Oh.
There's actually this also Written Hiddleston, and you're a top fan.
Really? Yes. I'm gonna win this year.
I'm not even joking. It is a thing, and I have seen it. Oh my God. Okay. It's glorious. Yeah. So, kitten, hot movie star.
Okay, I have another question here. It's not on our question list. I was wondering if you guys use the forums or the friends or the regional write-ins. Do any of you participate in any of those?
It's a little intimidating, but I shouldn't be, though.
I've never really, I'm kind of like the weird loner. I don't really do the regional. I tried doing the forums one year, and then I kind of realized that I was spending too much time on the forums and not enough time writing. So, they're kind of, I feel like the forums are really useful, particularly when you're starting out and you have questions like you're going, oh my God, I'm stuck, someone help me. If there's no one you can talk to immediately, there are people on the forums who can kind of give you ideas or commiserate with you or be like, here, go to Written Kitten, and you're like, go look at Calming Manatee, and then you'll feel better about yourself. But after that, it just kind of, they got to be a big distraction. And then a lot of the meetups, when I was doing it, were kind of like, like Fidos or something, and it's too noisy, and I couldn't go.
I think the best use of the forums, honestly, is late October. If a question comes up, you can post on there, but yeah, during November, you shouldn't have a whole lot of time. But they're useful when you're starting out, giving your ideas, what am I going to write about?
I get a lot of use of the forums. I like the forums a lot. I participate in the regional word war. They love to have me because I have really high word count. So,
have you considered doing 2 novels?
I did 2 novels last year.
Okay.
I wrote Cypher's called 25,000 words. Cypher's called 25,000 words. The sequel to it in that month. But for me, 100,000 words in a month is a good month. Not the best month, but it's okay. So I like the forums. I like participating, but I don't. They always have these meetup things where you're supposed to go and take your laptop to a coffee shop, and you and 5 other wacky people will sit there and type. It's like Now wait a minute. Let me get this straight. I have to pack up my laptop, get in the car, drive 20 minutes, set up, get into my story, while all this stuff is on the ground, type for 2 hours, pack up, get in my car, drive for 20 minutes, and go home. So that's like almost an extra hour if I don't go that I could write because I'd be traveling. So I just say, well, no, I'll take one. But just the other thing about NaNoWriMo. NaNoWriMo is a great excuse. I'm busy. One of the big problems with me, even being on a full-time author now, being a full-time writer, how do you balance family against work when you're always working? And with NaNoWriMo, it was really easy. With NaNoWriMo month, I have to write now. Go away. Talk to me in December.
I think that's a big part of it as well. You've got family and tight friends, but we talk a lot about enlisting the help of other writers and stuff. It's just as important to enlist the help of the other people in your house. The crock pot will be your friend. You might like pre-made lasagna and stuff like that. Your house will get dirty. Deal with it.
The really nice thing is that they say, okay, have this NaNoWriMo.
It's only 1 month.
So enlist the help of your, siblings, family, kids, husband, wife, whatever, that, I will be writing. You can, pick up the kids, you can do the laundry.
Occasionally dust me off. I'm a little worried actually this month, or next month, November, because I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. Yeah. So I don't know about getting my daily word count in. I will try. I'm going to try. I'm going to get ahead, I think, before I go. But, so what about doing that daily? Do you do it that way? Do you do 1,667 words every day, or do you every day go, oh, there's another day I didn't get it, and then go to the end and then go on a binge? How does it work for you guys? Are these consistent?
How it didn't work.
Okay.
And like I said, like how it didn't work, you learned from me. Yes, don't take things off. Because that's what, I'm a teacher. It's like, well, I've got midterms to grade. I could have sat down for an hour. There's an hour somewhere when you add up all the time in your day that you can write. And I have a friend who's written 15 novels now. She's got one newborn and one 2-year-old. She writes in 15 minutes. Her laptop's always open. She goes in there and types and goes and does whatever the kids and goes back. And by the end of the day, she's written whatever 5 minutes. Not as much to do that. The point is finding whatever they want for you. And that way, for the vast majority of people, is not to just do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow, and then the end of November comes and you've got 5,000 words. I suggest writing every day, even if it's 50 words. Get something on the page every day, because mentally that helps the story stay in your brain. If you take time off, take a day off, or a day off becomes 2 days, and then that becomes a week, keeping it in your brain. Steinbeck said, I only write when the muse hits me, and the muse hits me every day from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. That you need to strangle the muse, get her to do your bidding. Don't wait for the muse to hit.
So you're not a binge writer?
Well, I have been, and that's why I failed.
Okay. So, anybody else?
Well, I would say is, 1,667 words, you should treat that as your minimum, your daily minimum. You are not allowed to stop until you get to that. Now, of course, there are days where you sick or a thing happens, but even on those days, yeah, you need to sit down and you need to do your damnedest to put as much on the page as you can. And if you can't get to 1,667 because a man in a mask drags you away from your computer, it is what it is. But you need to treat that as the minimum word count. You need to always be going over that word count, because if nothing else, Thanksgiving is going to arrive and do you in the butt. So you need to get ahead so you can prepare for that.
Thanksgiving is often seen as a time where, oh, I don't have to go to work. I can write that weekend. Wrong. Yeah, your family will quickly dispute you with that knowledge, but probably not until it's way too late.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, when I was doing it and figuring out my daily word count goal, I didn't do 667. Mine was more like 1,800, because I counted it up and I said, I only have 28 days, because I'm not going to get anything done on Thanksgiving, and I'm not going to get anything done the day after. That's just how it's going to be. And that's, if you're in school and you're going to try to do this, and I think you're crazy, but good for you. Figure out, like, if you have any tests, that's the day you're not going to get anything done the day before that condition kicks in. So you need to actually do your word count and count those days as well. I'm not going to get anything done. So I actually only have 25 days in November in which to write 50,000 words and recalculate your minimum number there. I would really recommend that.
How about you, Amanda? Are you a binge writer?
I have been a binge writer. I'd like to consider myself to be slowly in reform. And the last tip that I have that I know may not work for a lot of you, because it involves doing something really, really vulnerable. Collaborative effort on Google Docs. Basically, either Docs or a Hangout. Have somebody there actively watching you type. That is absolutely terrifying, but for some reason, having to be called on stage repeatedly, every weeknight at a certain time is like, here, this is my appointment. Yeah, we'll chat a little, but I really do have to write. And having them actively watch, and I don't know, for some reason it just kind of seems to, kick on the switch. It's just, I have a date. Right in front of them. It's kind of exhibition, like that. Yeah, but so far, it kept me on for like a consistent 10,000 words in 2 weeks, which for me was huge. And it's all about consistency.
Well, being consistent is definitely good advice. But how about anybody in the audience? Has anybody done it the binge way? Waiting to the last week and then you have.
What I find for me is week 2 sucks. Week 1, I'm really excited and I get going, and week 2, I kind of go out of steam, and then week 3 is my catch-up. And then by week 4, I'm okay, but like for whatever reason, I've done it about 5 times now. Week 2 sucks.
I've had that experience too. Week 2 is like, oh my God, this is hard. And week 3 is, I am bored. I would like to be writing anything else but this. And week 4, I guess deadlines work well for me. So I see that deadline, I'm going, all right, never mind about being bored, just do it. Anybody else have it?
I recommend going to the write-ins. I really like them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a cool way to meet people with shared interests, and it's a good way to get other people to hold you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I never would have won my first Nano if I hadn't gone to write-ins, because otherwise I sit at home and I find something else to do.
Mm-hmm.
But at the write-in, we would do word wars. We'd force ourselves to write for 20 minutes and made friends over the course of the month. That was kind of cool.
And I think that's a really good point, too, that you have to find what works for you. If the write-ins work. I think the one reason why NaNoWriMo does work so well is because of the overall structure. There's so many things to choose from. For me personally, it's the friends. That works really well because I get to see all of my friends' progress, and I say, oh, they're on the target. I'm not. So I better get this.
I've enjoyed writing with other people's limits that we do at other times, not just during the month. And the first time I ever did NaNoWriMo, I didn't do it in November. I didn't do it with other people. I found it so valuable to just write. I found the breakthrough that came from me in writing. That was what was worth it. I find that I would wake up in the middle of the night and have the solution to why something wasn't working or how my plot had to get bigger. It's huge. I love NaNoWriMo. And for me, it's a different activity. It's not just writing. It's a different kind of thing. It paths to our ends, and it makes things possible for me that were not possible before. And it's a very different activity. It is the kind of thing that I learned about when I go to Colorado Gold, for example, plotting things out and doing all the character stuff. It is magical, and my stories come alive
So, well, I think we're out of time, and good luck to everyone, and thank you